Perhaps you've seen something like this. It's a guest check that you might find in a local diner. Let's talk about the data that's on a guest check like this. First of all, you have things like the date and maybe the table that they're at, the server, and the guest check number. All that would be information about this particular invoice. Now, you would also have details about this guest check. How many of those details you're going to have? I don't know. Some guest checks have 1, some have 2, some have 10. We don't know how many it's going to have. But one of the things we do know about soup for $5.99 and salad for $5.59 is that price is fully dependent on the item they order. So that's why you know that the item and the price or the cost of it will be in a separate table from this particular invoice. And then when it comes to each customer, in a diner you probably aren't asking each customer their name, but on a website, if you were selling goods that way, you'd probably have information about each guest that's at the table. Let's call them customers. So, thinking about that, we have 3 ICE-related tables and the customers table. So, customers have all the information about each customer. The invoice has got some information about the invoice, but it doesn't give the specifics. That's in the ICE details about what they're actually ordering. But when I say what they're actually ordering, well, let's link that to the actual, this is the ice cream table. You'll notice each of these 4 tables has an ID field, but they're not related. They're just unique identifiers for each of the tables. What is related is the ID of the customer table being tied to the customer ID of the ICE invoices. That way, by knowing the customer ID on that ICE invoice, we can tie it back to a first name, last name, age, city, state, zip, whatever. And when it comes to the ID on the ICE invoices, every single detail in the ICE details, every single record that's related to that invoice is going to have the same invoice ID. So we know which invoice is tied to all the items purchased on that invoice. And then there's the SKU. That's the stock keeping unit number. And the SKU is going to be tied to the ice cream database, the ID field. So the ID field is the unique identifier of the ice cream field, and in typically grocery stores they may call it the SKU number, the SKU. That's just the stock keeping unit. So they're related. Now, what fields do we want? Well, we want first name, last name. We don't care about gender and age, but street address, city, state, zip. Those would be all interesting things to have on the customer. Invoice. We're looking to build an invoice here. All right. Now, we could consider either the ID field or the customer ID field. They're going to be a match either way, because when these are all joined together, it doesn't matter which one I use. I think what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to use the customer ID just because it's got a unique name, not to confuse it with the ID field. I'm also going to want the date and the time. That's so I can print that on the invoice. And then I've got the same issue here with the ID field of ICE invoices and the invoice ID of ICE details. They're the same, so we're going to, of course, take the invoice ID. And then we also want the quantity and the SKU number. The SKU number, of course, is the same as ID, but for the same reason, we'll take that. And then we also want flavor, cost, and manufacturer. We don't care about the calories and fat grams on the invoice. So these are the fields we're going to have. That's quite a few fields. Yeah, well over a dozen. So, lots to write out. Select customers.fname, customers.lname, customers.streetaddress. I'm being very clear. Customers.city, state, zip. Those are all the ones I got there. Then I got iceinvoices.customer.id, iceinvoices.the.date, iceinvoices.the.time, and then I even have icedetails.invoice.id, quantity, and SKU, and I've got ice cream.flavor, ice cream.cost, ice cream.manufacturer. all those fields from customers join ICE invoices. All right, that's the first field, the first table joining the second table. On customer ID equals ICE invoices dot customer ID. We saw that. And that's going to join ICE details on the ICE invoices dot ID equals the ICE details dot invoice ID, just like I had them linked before. And that's going to join ice cream on the ICE details dot SKU equal to ice cream dot ID. Sounds perfect. We're going to get lots of data on that. We won't look at it all. So now I add create view ICE sales as before I add all that. Now I've got a view called ICE sales. And in this case, apparently I've got 20 rows in this set, at least at this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say select star from ICE sales where invoice ID equals 1. So it's actually looking for just the first record. ID equals 1. Invoice ID equals 1.